Crawford.
Here.
Goddard.
Here.
Graff. Hall.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
Ghosting.
Here.
Longfellow.
Here.
Mennel.
Here.
Milam.
Here.
Mingus.
Here.
Nelms.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Frail.
Here.
Rich Dempson.
Here.
Schmidgall.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Sin.
Here.
Stahl.
Here.
Stump. Woodruff.
Here.
Chairman Grimm. You have a quorum.
Thank you. May we all stand and Jay will lead us in prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you humbly this evening as we prepare to hash out the budget for this coming year. We just pray that you will give us wisdom and knowledge and understanding, just the best way to move forward with this. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any communications from the members of the public, county employees, elected or appointed officials to be brought forward? All right. Tonight could be a long meeting, so if we need to, we'll take a break. In the middle of it. Mindy is going to do the budget overview and levy presentation.
Thank you. First thing, if anyone has not received a swap out from Kelly of a page in the book that she was coming around swapping out for people, maybe raise your hand. She isn't sure if there's anyone still left in the room that didn't get that page swapped out in their book. Oh. Kelly might as well. Okay, thanks. First off, I do want to thank both Kelly and Sade for all their work on the budget book. They have spent, a lot of hours getting this book put together and been, on it, and we've been working hard. Had a few, it's our first time with the Questica budget software, which has been great, but as you learn something new, there's always a few complications, and they kind of just plugged right on through it. So just thank you to them for their work. Okay, so I'm going to get started with the budget presentation. Please stop me if you have any questions about anything that I say, or any other question related, and I will do my best to answer it. Okay, so starting right off, and you guys do have this packet in your folder. You should have all my slides. I wanted everybody to be able to follow along with me. I personally like that, and you can take notes on the pages. They are on front and back, so just have to go back and stuff like that. Okay, so just a little bit of information. If anyone does not have a presentation, somebody can grab one for you. So we tried to mimic as much as possible the presentation in prior year's budget books, showing you information like total revenues, total expenditures, fund balance, FTEs for each department, and fund balance as appropriate for funds. So that information is in this book. We've shown you fiscal year 24, 25, and 26 information. Original budget, revised budget, actual, and then for fiscal year 25 you also have year-to-date. And one difference with Questica is that year-to-date information is updated every day or every night. So our year-to-date information is much more close to accurate to today's date than what you would have had in the past. So it's not, as of yesterday, because obviously we put the books together a little bit ago, but it's pretty recent. So it's good information in there. And because of that constantly updating of the year-to-date information, we also are then updating as we catch it, anything that, say, if the year-to-date number is now more than what we had for the estimate for the fiscal year, we would try to catch that and update that. So those are kind of ongoingly happening as opposed to just one moment in time and then months go by and we don't update that information. So I think that's a great addition with Questica. This meeting will go quickly, so please do stop us. We have elected officials and department heads in the room, or their representatives that can answer questions when you have it. Okay, so a little bit about budget assumptions. We did use a 4% non-union wage increase in the budget. Again, this is for non-union employees. So anybody that's in a union, we use their actual union contract. We are recommending no increase for employee medical insurance premiums for fiscal year 26, and we're recommending that at this point because we are expecting lower claims due to the move to Aetna Network in September. And we will need to adjust and look at that in late fiscal year 26 as we prepare fiscal year 27's budget, but there's a healthy fund balance in that fund, and so we feel like we're safe to kind of proceed with no increase in premiums at this time. The property tax budgeted in this book that's before you is budgeted as what is allowed under PTEL, and I'm going to give you the whole levy discussion in just a little bit, so I'll go over that in much more detail very, very soon. And then just making note that there are 2 bargaining unit contracts that are under negotiation that will affect fiscal year 26 wages. Those are the deputies and the corrections officers, and we do have salary dollars set aside for those both those contracts in the general fund budget. Okay, so to date the process has been the elected officials and department heads entered their budget request information into Questica, and then we met with the representatives from the departments as well as someone from the finance committee, and then members of administration, so the finance department, and talked through budgets, and that helped us like better refine what was in Questica for the budgets. And then the finance department calculates salaries, benefits, we put together transfers, come up with a recommended tax levy, compile a capital plan, and then all other costs, and put together that book for you. So this book has gone through 1 iteration already. The finance committee did meet in September to go through the book, and so all of these budgets have been reviewed once by the finance committee, and now it is here before the full board. We are putting forward some budget adjustments. They're in your folder again in front of you, and as we get to those departments or funds that have adjustments on the listing, we'll point them out. But we are wanting to put forward adjustments because we want to put together the best budget that we can so that it is as accurate and complete as possible. So although I know that makes us have to stop and slow down to look at the adjustments, I think it gives you a better book, and we want to be able to put forward good information. And really that's it on that. Okay, so getting right into the heart of the matter. So we're going to first look at the fiscal year 26 budget for all funds. Now this is information that's on page 3 in your budget book, and this is just kind of summarizing that information. So just for starters, the general fund has 26 departments. We have 27 special revenue funds, we have 25 informational fee funds, and 1 debt service fund. That's a total of 54 funds that we are budgeting for in this book. So we have revenues. If you look at all funds revenues, we are expecting revenues of $86,476,997 in fiscal year 26. And when you're looking at the revenues, one of the major drivers of revenue across all funds is your intergovernmental revenues of $22.6 million. This, what intergovernmental revenues represent are funds that we receive from state and federal agencies that come into the county. Just to be a little bit more detailed about what that is, that would be like the county and township motor fuel allotments of $5.5 million is in that category. Various grants that we receive are in there. PPRT across the 6 funds that receives it, that's $2.1 million that's in this number. We have the local share of use tax and Illinois state income tax of $4.5 million, just to name some of what's in that $22.6 million. Then we have consumption taxes of $19.5 million. That includes retailers' public safety sales tax of $10.3 million. We have also $7 million in state sales reimbursement, and then we have retailers' occupational tax of $1.2 million. That's in that category. Next, we have property tax revenue of $18.3 million budgeted for fiscal year 26, and I will go into much more detail about that coming up shortly. The actual tax levy will be passed at full board, not this evening. We do also have charges for services of $16.5 million across all funds, and that would be things like if the highway fund does work for a municipality on their road, that charge will be considered revenue in the charges for services, and it can be somebody getting a marriage license, paying for that. So all those types of things are in charges for services. We also have a large number of expenditures budgeted for fiscal year 26. We have $141,645,264 in expenditures across all funds for fiscal year 26. And the largest category for fiscal year 26 is capital outlay of $55.4 million in fiscal year 26. And this, as you might have guessed, is largely due to the Justice Center Annex project that's going on currently, as well as we have an extensive list of improvements to our existing buildings scheduled for fiscal year 26 as well. We do have $48.4 million budgeted in personnel costs in fiscal year 26. Personnel costs tend to be the single largest category of ongoing expenditure that we have in every year. We're just this year capital outweighs that, and so your personnel costs includes things like wages, benefits such as Social Security, medical insurance, SLEP, and IMRF costs. So that all goes into that line. And then we have contractual services where we're expecting to pay about $23.9 million in fiscal year 26. This includes things like software licensing, fees, jail, healthcare and food, dispatch services, vendor contracts, IT consulting, our services paid to Heart, building maintenance, road and bridge work. We have $4.5 million in this line for fiscal year 26. Engineering, grants, insurance, construction, engineering, just all kinds of things that end up in that contractual services line. Then if you look at, we do have $4.3 million of contingency across all of our funds. So that is another significant dollar item in our expenditures. However, we don't often spend the bulk of that contingency, but it is in there for when something happens that we need it. So looking at the bottom right portion of this particular slide, it shows you the funds with the largest budgeted change in fund balance. So as you can see, we have the CIP fund is the big spender with $44.2 million expected to be spent down in fund balance in this fund. We also have $1.7 million in internal health. We have across all the highway funds just shy of $5 million expected to be spent down, and in county health and animal control, just over $500,000 in each of those to be spent down, and risk management has a $900,000, well over $900,000 spent down budgeted for fiscal year 26. Anybody have any questions? Okay, looking at the general fund. Now this is on page 19 in your book. So that's the information I'm referencing. So the general fund is expecting to have revenues of $43.8 million in fiscal year 26. This is comprised of $19.5 million in consumption taxes. Again, we have the retailer's public safety sales tax of $10.3 million. We have sales tax reimbursement of $7 million, retailer's occupational safety tax of $1.2 million, cannabis tax of $638,000 makes up part of that. And then we have intergovernmental revenues of $8.1 million. That is state income tax of $4.5 million, PPRT to the general fund of $1.15 million. We have grants, salary reimbursements, and stipends that all come in as intergovernmental revenues. We also have the property tax levy, which is expected to bring in $7.86 million in fiscal year 26 to the general fund. Then when you look at expenditures, we're planning on spending $44,230,333 in the general fund in fiscal year 26. So here you can see the largest single contributor to our expenditures is personnel at $29.3 million. Just to note, over 60% of all personnel dollars are budgeted for in the general fund. We have approximately just shy of 300 FTEs that are paid out of the general fund. We also have contractual services that we expect to cost about $7.8 million. Again, this is software maintenance, legal services. We have cost of attention replacement, dispatch services, cost to feed and keep the people in the jail healthy, lab services, election vendor contracts, a variety of things that are in this line. We also have 5% contingency in the general fund, so 5% of all expenditures budgeted in the general fund are considered then also a contingency on top of that. And again, this is a number that we don't typically really dip into overall, but it is there in case we do need it. The projected ending fund balance for fiscal year 26 for the general fund is $24,626,470. That is a general fund balance of 57.97% of expected future expenditures. And I did put on the bottom here, we do have some adjustments that will be presented as we go through the budget. And so I did provide an adjusted projected ending fund balance to the general fund, and it's not significantly different, but it is a decrease of about $61,730. So the fund balance percent dips just slightly to 57.72% of expected future expenditures. Any questions? Max?
So you're saying here, just like simple, just to kind of just one line, our revenues are not going to cover our expenditures?
Well, they are not if you consider contingency in there, which I have my next slide. I think we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, so this is a look that we like to take. It's looking at operating surplus. So what this slide does is it takes our revenues and our expenditures and it takes out anything that is either like a one-time only purchase or a receipt of revenue. So say we get a large grant that's not something that we would typically get, we would back it out on this one. As you can see, the Times building purchase is listed here. It's being backed out because we don't buy a building like every year. It's not part of the normal operations of business. We do leave in standard transfers, things that are related to Social Security and IMRF, but we do back out contingency because it is pretty rare that we in earnest touch contingency. We do back that out. And if you back out contingency, really in fiscal year 26, I didn't have a lot to back out. We won't have a lot of extraneous things planned. So if you back out contingency, we are expecting operating surplus of $1.7 million.
In fact, for the new members, you can't spend one penny out of contingency. You can transfer it to an appropriate line item and then spend it, but you can't spend it directly. Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Max? Oh, John, sorry.
I'll take that as a compliment. Follow up to that, and so for 25, we're estimating that we will not be able to add the contingency back in.
No, I just, when you're dealing with actuals, you just take it out because as Russ kind of said, we wouldn't spend contingency, we would move it into whatever line that we needed it and it would come through as an actual expenditure. So the hold for contingency is it just kind of, it's a placeholder. You've got this kind of set aside money that if you need it, you know where to go get it. But once you're in the year, I'm not gonna present to you contingency because we don't really expect to spend it. We expect that we would move it into a line and then I present it to you that way. Okay. So then, on pages 9 through 16 in your budget book, we have our capital plan. And so this is looking at 5 years of expected capital expenditures in any fund that is going to be spending them. New this year, I do have in here a fiscal year 25 budget and estimate column because it's helpful to me because I use that to kind of determine fund balance. So I thought I'll just go ahead and share it with you guys as well because I think it's good information. You can see where we're going to spend money. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this right here because I have a revised version that is also in your packet, but I'm going to get to a little bit later on when we get to the Fund 230, the CIP fund. But overall, just a couple things about the capital plan as it stands. We are expecting to spend $52.1 million across the next 5 years in the plan. That is $49.9 million out of the CIP fund and almost $1.7 million out of the general fund. We do also have capital expenditures planned for county health and solid waste as well as animal control fund. Sorry, so I just skipped that. Okay, so next looking at page 5 in your book, that is the transfer sheet. And just to give a quick rundown of what exactly this represents, detailing here the transfers that are happening in the general fund and the special revenue fund. So anything that's in green, those are transfers that are standard and they're related to Social Security and IMRF. So we do a little bit of transferring between funds, and that's how we represent it. Then the pinkish colored one, that is the annual transfer for to fund the CIP fund. That comes from the general fund into the CIP fund. As you can see for fiscal year 26, I do not have any dollars listed in there because I don't think that we really have a needed fund transfer, but I'm going to show you that calculation coming up in a little bit. And then anything in the blue, those are standard transfers related to Treasury. They're required, so they are detailed out here. And lastly, we have, at the bottom, we have some transfers in yellow. Those are only in the special revenue fund, and that is a planned transfer between two highway funds. Highway paid for some shop renovation out of one fund and decided they would really be better served to have that be paid for out of another fund. So we're budgeting for that here so that we can make that transfer at the beginning of fiscal year 26. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so now we get to the property tax levy part. Okay, so I like to start by showing you just a sample bill. So this is a property tax bill for fiscal year 24, or calendar year 24, that's payable in calendar year 25. So it's an actual bill. And what I'm pointing out here is I picked a bill that, well, Nicole picked a bill for me, thank you, Nicole, that shows a house with a fair market value of right around $175,000, which is approximately an average home value for Tazewell County. And then I'm highlighting a little bit further down under taxing bodies, I'm highlighting the Tazewell County line. That is what we're talking about. We are talking about the Tazewell County line on the property tax bill. So on this particular bill, the property tax amount that is funding the levy of Tazewell County totals $271.02. This taxpayer's total property tax liability is $4,487.28. So as you can see, the Tazewell County portion of the entire tax bill is 6% of the entire tax bill. So what we're talking about tonight, we're not talking about schools, we're not talking about park districts, we're not talking about libraries or township roads. We're talking only about that number that is that Tazewell County line on the tax bill. Any questions about that? Okay, so a little bit more about Tazewell County's tax levy. We are a PTEL county. PTEL stands for Property Tax Extension Limitation Law. And what that means is that our property taxes are limited to increase by the lesser of 5% for the prior year's CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index. And in 2024, CPI is 2.9%. So for what we're going to be talking about tonight, the max levy that we can increase by is 2.9%. There is an allowance for new construction that's built into that calculation, but essentially 2.9% is really what we can choose to increase by. We have 11 levied funds, and 9 of those are capped by PTEL, but 2 of them are not capped, and those are the Veterans Assistance Fund and the Persons with Developmental Disabilities Fund. Okay, so Tazewell County's tax levy, that line that says Tazewell County, the $271, that represents all 11 funds that we levied for Tazewell County. So they're all combined and added into that one line on the tax bill. So the total levy then is proportioned out to the 11 levied funds, and we will be talking about that tonight. So we want to make sure that we're putting taxpayer dollars to the best use that we can. So we do consider things like what is the proposed budget for any given levy, what is the known activity needed out of this fund, say if somebody's saving up for a project that needs to be done. It's good for us to know that so that we can plan appropriately and allow maybe some fund balance to grow in a particular fund so that they have funds for a project that's coming up. But then we also consider what's the current and projected fund balance, so the available funds for any given fund. So we're looking at both of those things. We don't want to build up an unneeded amount of money in one fund and let another fund who needs something not be able to do what they need to do because we have dollars sitting in another fund that they don't really need. So I do begin the tax levy allocation by pulling the prior year's extended levy. That is my starting space, and then based on information that I know, I will increase or decrease a particular fund's apportionment of the levied dollars based on information that I have. So the majority of the funds will receive the max amount allowed under PTEL, or the 2.9% increase. But we do have some funds that are receiving a different amount of the levy. So starting with the IMRF fund, we are actually reducing that levy by 21% in fiscal year 26. And this is because in fiscal year 24 and 25, we gave a larger portion of property tax dollars to this fund because we wanted to pay down liability. It was the IMRF SLEP Enhancement Reserve liability. This was a liability that was put upon the county for retirement funds. It was put upon us by the state, and we could have paid this out over years, but we made the decision that let's just go after it. We had some but we had funds available that we could go ahead and apply to this and get this paid down. So now that liability is gone. So the extra money that was going to the IMRF fund now can be put somewhere else where someone else needs it. So we did pay off that liability over the last 2 years. It was $838,000 that went to pay off that liability. And in fiscal year 26, it will free up about $300,000 of funds to go somewhere else. So I know that the highway funds always are looking for extra monies that they would use to do all kinds of work on our roads. Like, they never have enough money. So I was able to give the county bridge fund almost double of the increase that they would have gotten otherwise. Instead of getting 2.9%, we are budgeting 8.68% increase on their levy. And then the county health fund, we, instead of giving 2.9% there, we're able to give about 6.7% increase on that levy. And that represents roughly 1% of wages, Social Security, and IMRF costs for fiscal year 26 for that fund. The reason why I looked at doing that was because we have a salary study, as you all know, that is that we're hoping to be able to do something with at the in fiscal year 26, and so to allow them some extra funding to be able to make some adjustments according to the salary study, gave them a little bit of extra revenue to help support that. The Persons with Developmental Disabilities Fund requested a 2% increase, and that is what, has been budgeted for that fund. And then lastly, the general fund is looking at receiving a 7.84% increase versus a 2.9% increase in fiscal year 26. And this is to help build back up some of the funds in the general fund. In the last couple of years, we've spent that fund down a little bit. And then also there is the pending salary study that which will affect this fund as well. Any questions? Eric?
Thank you. When we add money back to something like the bridge fund, is that considered just like a one-time, will we see that, or do we start next year's budget from that basis point?
I would start next year's budget from that basis point, and then, you know, if depending on needs, if we can pull back on that one or push more on another, I guess I would say all funds, you don't really want to take away from, you know, like the health department. I wouldn't want to be looking to cut their fund, or with the highway departments, I wouldn't want to be looking at cutting any of their funding. So it would start at that as a starting place, but you know, as you have to make choices, you can up or down any of those, because again, it's just that one pot of money, and we decide where it goes.
So we won't cut down, but it's a possibility one department will get the next CPI increase.
And you can actually you can reduce, like we are doing with IMRF fund, we are reducing that, because we think that fund can support it. And like I said, we had expenditures last year that we don't have this year. So as we weigh that out, we'll make decisions about where to give more and where to pull back.
Thank you.
Help me understand. Does this mean that our residents of the Tazewell County don't ever see a decrease in their property tax, because we're always just trying to move from one department to another?
Well, I mean,
Fund to another?
it's not that you couldn't do a decrease in the Tazewell County portion of the property tax bill. And that could be done, but it would be done at the detriment, I believe, of the funds that rely upon those dollars. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that.
I just want to make this comment because of what you just asked, and you've said it in other words, but I'm going to say it again. The best way to get a decrease in taxes in Tazewell County is for some of the other taxing districts in this county to act like Tazewell County and start being responsible, instead of seeing the most they can possibly grab from the taxpayers. It's ridiculous. Look at the bills.
Okay. So this is the tax levy, just in a cuter form. It's the tax levy that's listed on page 4. And I really am just putting this in here so that you can see how it's spelled out, and how it changes from year to year, and you can see the appropriate tax rate. Okay, so this is the tax levy just in a different view. So there's a pie chart here that shows you the general fund is the largest single recipient of the tax levy. So the general fund has 44% of the tax levy. The highway funds, the 3 highway funds receive 22% of the tax levy, and then you can kind of see the rest. What is being proposed tonight is an increase in the tax levy of $583,851. Okay, so this gives you a look at the levy fund dependency on the property tax dollars. So,
Sorry, I thought you said 533,000. Did you say 536,000?
583,851. I'm sorry if I missed
Where
that.
am I looking?
It's at the very bottom of the sheet. It's in blue.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the 11 levied funds are listed here. The U of I extension, we really don't have any say in that. They give us a request and it comes into our levy and then we give that to them. But of the 10 funds that Tazewell County actually is making the determination about the levy for, you can see that 8 of the 10 rely on the property tax levy for approximately half to 100% of their revenue for the operations of that fund. And of the 11 levied funds, they rely on the property tax levy for over a quarter of their revenues across all 11 funds. So the property tax levy is very important to the functioning operation of Tazewell County funds. So this next slide, then, it illustrates if you do not take the PTEL increase as allowed, so if you do not take the 2.9% increase in fiscal year 26, the year ahead of us, if you hold the property tax levy exactly the same as it was in fiscal year 25, so that's the second column. If you do that, there is lost revenue to the county of $580, it's so small for me, $583,851. So then say if in fiscal year 27 you go back and you start levying as allowed under PTEL, and I have estimates in there, it looks like next year, fiscal year 27 is going to be approximately the same CPI as what we had, we were able to use this year, and then coming down a little bit in 28, and then not a lot of great information for 29 and beyond. So just held that flat at 2% over 10 years. If you hold the tax levy flat in 26 for 1 year, over the next 10 years, that would be lost revenue to the county of almost $6.5 million. So it accumulates. The thing about the levy is that it does compound. You can never go backwards. You can never go get, if you don't take a increase in fiscal year 26, you can't go back and get it if you determine like we're upon hard times. It resets and you can only take the amount allowed under PTEL in that given year. So one of the things that I feel like is important to point out is that when we have a fund that is very dependent upon property tax levy dollars, and you hold that steady, as they have increases in their costs due to inflation, they're not able to do as much with their money because they didn't get any increase. It's as if in your own home, your prices for everything is going up, but you don't get a raise at work. And in order to be able to do things like increase salaries, to pay for, one thing that always comes to mind is highway, how the cost of milling roads has gone up so much quicker than say like the CPI factor. So they can just do less with the same amount of money. And that is just the reality of not taking the property tax increase that you can under PTEL in this particular year at 2.9%. That you lose out on your buying ability, and that does harm some of our funds that are heavily reliant upon their property tax dollars. So in the bottom right corner there, it shows the property tax on a home that's about $175,000 in Tazewell County. So if you apply the 2.5% levy increase as allowed under PTEL, that home would pay for Tazewell County taxes $278.89 in fiscal year 26. If you hold flat in fiscal year 26, that same house would pay $269.89. That's a difference. Actually, it says 9.01. I realized afterwards, but that's just a rounding thing. But it's $9 exactly is the difference for 1 year's worth of property tax increase for $175,000 home value. So, I mean, every dollar obviously matters. I mean, it matters to me, and I live in Tazewell County, so I do understand that. But that $9 for the average home price it equates to over $500,000 to Tazewell County, when you're looking at across all funds. So it's just something to consider. Any questions on that? Greg?
Yeah, the $6.4 million cumulative difference, I'm looking at the 10-year spread here, and there's no $6.4 million anywhere. Where's that $6.4 million?
It's the total of the difference all along the bottom. So it's the 583,000 plus the 600,000 plus the 616,000, all of that across.
I see, thanks.
Great.
Yeah, if that percentage changed from 2% that you projected out, I realize we have no idea. If that was higher, what would that do to that total? Would it make it more?
Yeah, the difference will be more, yeah.
So you're being pretty conservative.
I'm being conservative, yeah. But, we have had years under too, so, like it balances out kind of. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay, so my last slide on the tax levy is, this is a picture of the ordinance that we'll be putting before you at the end of the month when we pass the tax levy. This is the general funds levy, and it specifically says that if for some reason we have we've requested more than PTEL would allow, that we would take any overage that we have requested and take it out of the general fund levy. We wouldn't, take it out of a highway fund, we wouldn't take it out of risk, we wouldn't take it out of any other fund. It would be reduced out of the general fund. I don't see that being a problem, but it is a safeguard in there in case we would find ourselves in that situation.
I don't recall that language being in the last year of tax levies, is that right, Mindy?
It was.
It
Just
was?
in the general fund, yeah, it's only in the general fund.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about anything I showed you? Because I'm done. Okay.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, we need to start on the general fund, so I'll entertain a motion to reopen the general fund.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to open and approve the Tazewell County General Fund for fiscal year 2026.
Thank you. A second to the motion by Aaron. All right, we have some amendments to make. Anything in the circuit clerk? Jury commission? State's attorney? Public defender? We do on the state's attorney, okay.
Yes. For the state's attorney, this is just a small adjustment upwards. This is for increased cost for association membership dues. It's an increase of $2,000.
Entertain a motion to approve that amendment. Motion by Max, second by Jay. Any comments or questions? All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None carries. Thank you. Our next one is nothing in the courts, court services, court security, sheriff, EMA, coroner, community development, county board, auditor, county clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the amendment for county clerk.
Is there a second? Eric Stahl. Could you explain those, Mindy?
Yes, this is an increase to the budget related to their Liberty voter by mail postcard. It's a new requirement, and so Liberty will do this process for the clerk, but he's right here, so if you have any questions, I'm sure he would answer.
Comments or questions? All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment carries. I got one one comment to make on the county clerks. The board, the members that are on the finance committee, I'm gonna give you an update on what was done. We reduced the personnel line of the county clerk by approximately $15,000. And that was due to the clerk's office giving Martin Luther King Day holiday off to all the union employees. And the grievance came about from the other union members that didn't get it. And so we paid them, and the total amount that comes in is about $15,000. We reduced the budget, the personnel side. That only includes union dollars, not management salaries. Russ?
Well, all I want to say is we had to do that. There had to be fiscal accountability, and it was awkward, it was embarrassing. It sure beat the hell out of a censure resolution, which some person tried a year ago. That does nothing beneficial for anybody. But anyway, I'm hoping, though, that my friend the county clerk will not repeat that behavior again and therefore not lose additional dollars. Thank you.
Right, that was an update for the members that are on the finance committee. All right, moving on, treasurer's office, I think, county administration, we have a, pardon? No vote, it's just information update. Yeah. All right, county administration, we have a amendment.
And so moved.
By Russ, second by John. Mindy, would you explain it, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna address John's question real quick. That was already in the number that you had. So it was information only, it wasn't presenting that as an adjustment, that's why, okay? This is just an update of contingency based off of what is put before you on this paper. For the general fund, we have a slight adjustment to general fund contingency because of it. So that's all that's there.
All right, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, we'll move down to human resources. Need a motion to amend by Caden, second by Tammy. Mindy, would you?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this one here, this is a net decrease to the general fund budget in the human resources department. And what we were doing is eliminating a subscription that we currently have that our new HR director would prefer to have a different subscription to do, I guess, a resource. It's something that she really likes. She's bringing it with her from her past experience. So we are putting in $9,500 for that subscription. However, we are taking $20,000 out of the professional fees line, which is where the other subscription had been placed previously, a portion of it, and then also bringing that down because we just think it's higher than what we need to have. I do have enough money in there still to pay the remainder of the cost for CBIZ for the salary study. That there's money in there to finish that up, and a little bit in case we have maybe an additional small cost for something, but overall bringing this fund department combination down.
Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment's approved. All right, I think our last adjustment is on building maintenance. So entertain a motion to amend building maintenance by Russ.
Building administration.
Second by Dean. Mindy?
Yes, on this one, this is being added to the budget. It represents the cost to have built and installed 3 historical markers for past county courthouses. The cost is $6,000 per marker, and they will be placed in Mackinac, Hookdale, and on our current courthouse's site for our previous courthouse that is no longer there.
Questions? Russ?
John, will you share with the board that whether this is part of the ongoing heritage event celebration?
This is part of the discussions right now that the Historical Preservation Committee is having in order for plans for the 2027 Tazewell County Bicentennial. The idea would be as we go into those meetings, into that year for celebrations, we would dedicate these new historical markers at each of our previous county seats as they have existed. One already exists in Tremont for our second courthouse. This would be just placing one in Hopedale for where the first meeting was, and Mackinac where the first courthouse was, and then here at Pekin where the third courthouse was before the current one. This would have to be approved by the historical committee first, and then move to the executive committee for approval. So voting on this tonight does not approve the project. This just allows the funding to be in the budget to make it available. And the reason it has to be in this budget rather than 27's, since the event's in 27, it takes 6 months for these to be manufactured. So if April is our bicentennial. If we want to do it for our bicentennial, we have to start it in the fall of next year. So I believe that is the course that the Historical Preservation Committee is taking, but again, all of that would come forward for approval by the board.
Thank you.
Nancy?
This is a question kind of aside with that, and it kind of ties in with probably future expense. Will there be a point that we will know any other historically related monuments, signs, statues, or anything that will be done? Or is this just going to be at willy-nilly? I shouldn't use that expression, I guess, but just whenever somebody feels like we need a new sign or a new statue, you come to the board with another one. John, do you have a plan for this, or does somebody have a plan that's going to follow up on that?
Caden is the chairman of the committee, and he could probably answer that question. Caden?
Yeah, so we will debate these as they come up. We encourage everyone, if they think that something should have a marker, come talk to the committee and we will take it under consideration.
To continue Nancy's question, do we budget 0 each year? Do we budget 100,000? How do we go about that?
I would say let's put a small amount in there, or just whatever the board's comfortable with.
Right now it's 18,000. Greg?
Just curious what a marker costs.
1,000. I think they said 6,000 a marker. These markers. Russ?
Everybody on the board can be rest assured that not just Caden, but Chairman Grimm has given direction to this committee that he wants it very efficient. So he wants to celebrate the heritage, but he doesn't want to waste money doing it.
All right. Eric?
So we have this marked in building maintenance. In the future, when we have this committee, maybe when we're talking about, the money that Caden's committee would hold, could we put this on a separate line item so it's pushed out more, we can all see it and talk about it?
Yeah, as we get more guidance from what exactly the committee wants moving forward, we can maybe create like either a project code or a department that would be within the general fund that we could track it in. So that might be helpful to stick out a little bit more.
John?
Outside the actual plaque, is this gonna, add additional, maybe in each township that they would be taking care of these plaques or anything like that, or just we put it up and it's good?
Caden?
We would just put these up and they are good.
Right. All right. That is all the amendments for the general fund? All right. All in All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Is, Mr. Chairman, was that a motion to approve the entire general fund as amended?
No, I'm sorry, the amendment of the land improvements, the markers.
Got it, thank you.
Who was the name?
I was in it.
Okay,
I was a name like this, how are we gonna delineate this $18,000 from, will it just be in there when it comes time to vote on the whole budget? Will be in the general
yeah,
fund?
we're allocating the dollars, then it has to get approved through the committees that John just, so it has to go through property or exact and then full board, it'll come back.
Okay, I'm still a name on it.
Alright. Alright, all the minutes are made and voted on, now we're gonna vote on the general fund as amended. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? General fund's approved for the tentative budget. Now on the special revenue funds, we have to have a motion for each fund. And then if there's any amendments, a motion to amend, and then we'll vote on both. But of the amendments in each department, all the amendments, like in the health department's page here, can be covered under one motion.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, IMRF, is there any? I entertain a motion to bring the IMRF fund by Russ, second by Jay. No amendments. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Social Security. Entertain a motion to approve the Social Security by Greg Middle, second by Eric Stahl. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the Health Internal Services Fund. Motion by Tammy, second by Dave. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for Township Bridge by Joe. By Greg, second by Greg Miller. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify, John, go ahead.
I had talked to Dan shortly before the meeting as well, but not just in Township Bridge, but kind of all the next few, so I'll just ask a general question maybe to him that I didn't think to ask. A lot of the fund balances are being spent down this year. Is that gonna put us in a bad spot, or do we really need to have more funds in these accounts? So just kind of a general, high-level question.
Obviously in front of the public.
Which fund? Matching?
Well, this was asking in general, I kind of lumped them all together, just because several of them we are getting spent down.
There's two or three.
Yeah.
One is about, there's 800,000 that we could receive an invoice for Broadway. We did a federal job in Groveland, and I got 5 years to actually send the final invoice out. So that could be sitting there for a few years. So that's about, it's almost $1 million that you could add back into that balance. It's not, it's a one-time charge. And then there's also 2 trucks we're asking for this year in 2026. And so that's to catch us up, and after 2026, we'll be back on that path of acquiring a new truck every year. And that way we save the maintenance of the vehicles and being able to have just one. There was $5 million, it's probably the biggest one,
that was from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity that hit in 2024. And that's where we spent up to like 8.7 that year, and we dropped back down. So that was a major blip because of some unforeseen revenue. And then we've got, we sent in for a grant with about $400 million that IDOT had available, and we submitted 4 programs and we got 1 funded, so we're gonna have another $2 million to be able to resurface Broadway from Springfield Road to the interstate. So that's unforeseen, but a lot of this turbulence that you see is because of these grants that are coming in. Now, Township Bridge also quadrupled the amount of money coming into the Township Bridge program to replace bridges on the township system. And so that is there's kind of a domino ripple effect there, because we're matching tax we use to match our, in order to expend this. The township has to expend money, so there's an increased demand for money from other funds too, which lower things a little bit. Historically, many of these balances hover around $2.5 to $3 million, and I think matching has dropped a little bit, but it should be just a blip. If we go out 10 years, we've had other years where we've had to just, in order to take advantage and leverage our funds, we've had to expend a little bit more one particular year. So that's I think what you're seeing.
Yeah, and mostly I guess, and I know we're gonna allocate some additional funds through the levy this year. It sounds like, you know, we've been above the percentage growth, but just wanted to make sure, I guess, that you're feeling comfortable that we're looking where we need to be, because, you know, obviously that work is continuing to go up expense-wise.
It's important to me, and I know it's important to the board, that we maintain our balances. I'll go to my flood file cabinet, and I've got a file cabinet there that basically shows that we've had a fairly damaging flood where we actually need several $1 million. There was flood probably in the latter 60s, early 70s that took out both approaches on Springfield Road down on the bottom there on the Mackinac. And so that's really, I mean, it could be a tornado, it could be a flood, but we need to have reserves like that. So we see the importance, and we try to maintain that and balance that with leveraging the additional monies that are out there. So it's a balancing act.
Any other questions for Dan? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Township Bridge? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain motion for County Highway. Motion by Greg Mennel, second by Eric Schmidtko. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain motion for county motor fuel tax by Nate Caden, second by Catherine. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain motion for township road fuel tax. Russ Crawford, second by Kim. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain motion for county bridge by Greg Mendel, second by Russ. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain motion for matching tax by Catherine, second by Katie. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain motion for county health by Eric Schmidtko, second by Greg Send. We do have some amendments that are listed on that handout that you've received.
I'll make a motion to approve all those 13 amendments.
Thank you. I hope that includes it. Who made the motion, Catherine? Do you want to include all of them on here?
Yes.
All right. And Greg? Amy, do you have anything you wanna say on any of them?
So the bottom half.
Could you come up here, please, so we?
Do you want me just to speak to the county health ones first?
15, not 13, I'm sorry.
Well, we're doing the whole page. They're all county health.
Yep.
There's more than 15.
15 is just the top part.
Yes. We're doing the whole page.
You just want me to talk to the top part of this point, since you only have to.
Just any comments you wanna add
Okay.
on this?
The top part is a change to adding back in dental. The majority of those changes, we had an opportunity that has come to us. We're actually meeting on Thursday with a potential, it's Illinois Department of Public Health and a potential dentist to look at a new dental hygienist-led model for public health clinics that would allow us to start services again. So with the money taken out, we couldn't do anything. With the money put back, we have an opportunity if this works out. And so we're requesting to put that money back in those line items. Any questions on that part, the top part?
So will you start to spend with beginning at fiscal year 2026? Thanks.
But only if there's a go and an agreement reached.
Got it.
Otherwise, this is just numbers that won't be used. The bottom half is all changes in grant budgets. I talked to the finance committee and let them know that as we got state fiscal year $26 more appropriately in, that we would make adjustments. So you see adjustments in revenue as well as expenses across the special funds. Any questions on any of that?
All right, thank you. Eric, you made the motion. You include all these in your motion. Thank you. Any comments or questions to be made? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Entertain a motion for solid waste. Motion by Nancy, second by Kim. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion for the CIPA grant. Eric Schmidgall, John, second. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Entertain a motion for veterans assistance. By Joe, second by Greg Sin. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for animal control. Motion by Jay, second by Russ. We do have an amendment.
So amendment.
Entertain a motion to amend by Russ, second by Tammy. Can you explain this?
Yes,
Is,
Libby's here.
Libby.
Mm-hmm.
Libby, would you like to talk?
I've got it if you don't, I mean, it's
Okay.
easy. Okay, so this is just, Libby moving, automobile that was supposed to be purchased in fiscal year 25 and pushing it forward and going to purchase it in 26. It's just not gonna happen this year, so it's just an adjustment, and because of that, then that's a larger expenditure in fiscal year 26, and therefore we adjust contingency as well.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for GIS. By Russ, second by Joe. Comments or questions? Everybody, where am I at? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Lost my track.
Motion carries.
Entertain a motion for persons with developmental disabilities. Motion by Eric Schmidgall, second by Catherine. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for American Rescue Plan. Motion by Kim, second by Caden. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the National Opioid Settlement. Motion by Aaron, second by Tammy. We have an amendment. Go ahead.
Okay, so all this is doing is providing a salary increase at the request of Judge Scotch for an employee that is paid out of the National Opioid Settlement Fund. It is the salary increase plus the corresponding Social Security and IRA increase.
Need a motion to amend this to meet those needs by Nancy, second by Joe. Comments or questions? Dean?
Can you specify who's doing the salary increase?
My colleague,
I don't know specifically, but my understanding is the only employee that would be paid from those funds is the opioid counselor that tends to detainees at the jail. So I never want to make an assumption, but I believe that would be the employee.
no, I know who it is, I just didn't know if I could say it. I don't know if I, say their name.
Particular employee?
Yeah,
I think I know the name.
if that's
so-
okay if I say it.
I don't.
No need to say.
I don't think
No.
there's probably any need, yeah, if there's a discussion of a particular employee, then yeah, it would need to be done in closed session.
Yes.
So, just the position, I'm sorry.
No, I
gave
just thought
you too
that's
much
uncomfortable.
information.
Any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the LATCF grant. Right. That was for the, now we have to vote on the motion as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion's approved as amended. Entertain a motion for the LATCF grant by Eric Stahl, second by Greg Mingle. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the Energy Transition Community Grant. Motion by Jay, second by Tammy. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the Sheriff's Grant Fund by Greg Longfellow, second by Greg Minold. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Entertain a motion for the Treasurer's Automation Fund. Motion by Nancy, second by Aaron. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for probation upgrade. Motion by Joe, second by Greg Longfellow. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Greg. Entertain a motion for risk management and liability. Motion by Greg Miller, second by Catherine. Any comments or questions? Anybody? John got a question, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask in general, I know the last couple of years, we've kind of maybe had to spend down there. Where does that end? Where do we make that up eventually? To level that account out, I guess, do we just allocate more funds from the levy?
Yes, if we felt like that's exactly what we needed to do. I don't think you would want to go much further than where we're at right now, but It is a, property tax levy fund, and the requirement is that, they would be at 50% fund balance, and this fund will be at 83% fund balance, so it seems like it is fine, but because of what it does need to do for us, you don't wanna take it too far, so I would agree.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion for the drug court fund by Caden, second by Jay. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the CIP fund. Long. Second by Dave Mingus. We do have an amendment, so would you explain the change?
Yes, okay, so I have a few more slides to show you, in relation to this. So you do have in your packet revised, capital improvement plan, revised capital improvement plan in front of you, and I'm gonna just point out the couple of things that changed. I highlighted them in yellow so that you would be able to pick them out and see what they are. There's nothing on the first page, but then on the second page, we do have an increase in the, amount of money set aside for the general refresh and reconfiguration of the Pekin campus buildings and grounds. And we also have on the same page, an adjustment in the animal control facilities improvements, the part that's being funded by the capital improvement plan itself. That has adjusted downward a little bit from prior, just based off of better information. And then also that vehicle that we talked about with Libby, that's highlighted there as well. And on the next page, I have highlighted those state historical markers that we talked about for the general fund. And then when you look at the Justice Center Annex, I did make an adjustment there, and that's mostly, it's just a timing issue. We think we're gonna spend some of those funds a little earlier than what we had originally planned in the budget. So I pushed some money forward and a little less to be spent in fiscal year 26 with that one. And lastly, we have a change to the CIP fund contingency. Anything that's to be paid for out of the CIP fund, we automatically put a 5% contingency on that dollar amount and put that in the capital improvement plan fund. However, we are adding an additional 10% of the animal control facility project, and we're doing that because as we're getting further along in that project, there's not a lot of margin on that project, and it would just be more comfortable for all involved if we just had some extra funding that we knew was available should we need it. We have identified a couple of expenditures that we're going to have to make that were not originally identified in the project itself. So we're putting aside some money as additional contingency. So it has the original 5% contingency on the project plus an additional 10% denoted here under the contingency specifically for the animal control facility. And that covers everything that's happening on your paper.
Thank you. I need a motion to amend to what you, by Jay, second by Catherine. Comments or questions on this? All in favor, John?
I apologize, maybe I missed it before. So really it's just the animal control that's new on the contingency?
Yes, that second line, the animal control of 155,000, that one was not in a previous version of the capital improvement fund.
But the Justice Center was?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Catherine?
Mindy, you mentioned that you needed to put some funds earlier. Is that because of the construction timeline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like specifically for the Justice Center Annex or the animal control or both?
Okay, so that was specifically for the Justice Center Annex project, that there were engineering costs that we,
okay.
I have to be cautious about how much I move forward on any given project, because I need to make sure that in the year to come, there's enough money to pay those bills specifically, because we already have budgeted for 25. So I'm really focused on 26 and making sure that those funds are available for the year coming up. And as we become aware that we need to move something around one way or the other, you know, we're gonna make those adjustments. And really between now and final budget, I am gonna look at those projects a little more closely to make sure that have the money in the right year. Because there are probably a few things that need to move around a little bit more.
And do you feel comfortable with those conversations and that communication between?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Other questions on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the recorder's special doc. Forgot to vote on the motion as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion as amended is approved. Entertain a motion for the recorder's special document storage by Russ Crawford. Eric Schmickel, second. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The informational fee funds are in your book. We do not approve those. Is there any other, pardon? Any other comments to be made? All right, we are in recess. Read your book. We're gonna go over the motions and final budget.